Number 84 deals with IVs. A patient receives an intravenous IV solution that flows at the rate of 150 milliliters per hour. And then you're asked 4 questions, A, B, C, D. Part A, how much fluid does the patient receive in 20 minutes? Let's just do that one first. Okay, A. Now if you get 150 milliliters per hour, then how much do you get in 20 minutes? So 150 milliliters per hour, that means if it goes for 1 hour, then you're talking about 150 milliliters of fluid. Okay, now we know, and what we're trying to do, by the way, is, well, how much fluid in 20 minutes? If you got 20 minutes, then calculate how many milliliters you get from that. Okay, so first you're going to want to turn this into hours. 20 minutes, you can figure out how many hours that is, and once you know how many hours that is, use the top relation to convert to milliliters of fluid. So of course 60 minutes in an hour, so let's write that down. 60 minutes is 1 hour. So we can turn minutes into hours and then hours into milliliters. This will be a 2-step conversion. So the first step is 60 minutes is 1 hour. Cancels minutes. And the second step, 1 hour, gives you 150 milliliters of fluid. And that cancels the hour. And the math is pretty simple here, but we'll use a calculator. So 20 over 60 times 150. We didn't need a calculator for that. It's going to give you 50. 20 over 60 is 1/3, and 1/3 of 150 is 50. So that's going to be 50 milliliters of fluid. Okay, now let's go to the next question over here on the left. That's B. How long does it take for the patient to receive 90 milliliters of fluid? Okay, so if it's going at 150 milliliters per hour, then, and you want to get 90 milliliters, so this is B. This is a little bit different this time. If you got 90 milliliters of fluid and you want to figure out how long, so suppose you want to figure out how many minutes that's going to take. Well, again, we know that 1 hour delivers 150 milliliters, but you just want 90 milliliters. So it's going to take a little bit less than an hour. An hour will get you 150. So it'll just take a portion of an hour, maybe a certain number of minutes. Okay, so first, we can use this relation that we already know about the IV. It delivers 150 per hour. 150 milliliters. It's delivered in 1 hour. So that gets rid of milliliters. And that'll calculate hours, but let's convert that to minutes. Let's turn hours into minutes using that relation right there. Okay, so 1 hour is 60 minutes, and that gets rid of hours. So notice, by the way, that this relation right here is flipped upside down, because up here we were starting with 20 minutes, Okay, but here we're starting with 90 milliliters. So just make sure your units are canceling and you'll be okay. Okay, but you see this relation is flipped. And that relation is also flipped. Everything's flipped. Okay, so let's calculate the minutes. So you got 90 over 150 times 60. We get 36 minutes. 36 minutes. So there was A. And now here's B. Okay, let's do C. So C on the over here. If the IV bag holds 600 milliliters of fluid, how many minutes does it take to empty the bag? So suppose the whole thing holds 600 milliliters of fluid, and you know that it delivers 150 milliliters per hour. Okay? If it delivers 150 milliliters in 1 hour, then 2 hours would deliver 300. 3 hours would deliver 450. 4 hours would deliver 600. So the answer is 4 hours. Let's just show that in a calculation. So for C, when you're talking about 600 milliliters, and you want to figure out how much time that takes. Okay, well, you get 150 milliliters dripped in 1 hour. Okay, so 150 milliliters is in 1 hour. And we can leave it at hours if you want. It just asks for it's asking how many minutes. So we got to convert to minutes. Okay. So don't, it'll take 4 hours, but let's convert hours to minutes. So what's 4 times, 4 hours, 60 minutes per hour? That's 240 minutes, right? So 1 hour is 60 minutes, and hour cancels hour. And that's going to be equal to 240. 600 divided by 150 is 4, times 60 is 240. 240 minutes. So part C, and then finally part D. Where's the last one? Part D. If the solution contains 90 milligrams glucose per milliliter, how long will it take to give the patient 2 grams of glucose? Okay, part D is a little more tricky. You're asked for how long, will it take? So your answer is going to be a certain amount of minutes or hours. It doesn't specify if it wants it in minutes or hours. Let's just do minutes. So how long is it going to take to give the patient 2 grams of glucose if there are 90 milligrams per milliliter? So it looks like this IV bag contains glucose. Okay, what do you call those, you nurses? What do you call those? Sugar water? So 90 milligrams glucose per milliliter. Let's write that down. 1 milliliter gets the patient 90 milligrams of glucose. Okay, and if you need to give the patient, or if the patient is given 2 grams of glucose, can we figure out how many minutes that will take? Okay, so the way I would do this, I would start with the 2 grams of glucose. Okay, and see if I can do something like this, maybe to get all the way over to minutes. Whoops, get back here. Okay, so where can we go? We're starting with 2 grams of glucose. Now we know that 90 milligrams of glucose is what you get from 1 milliliter. Okay. And let's write down a few more relations. We have grams of glucose, and this is talking about milligrams of glucose. So we probably need the gram to milligram conversion. 1,000 milligrams of glucose, of any substance really, is the same thing as 1 gram of the substance. So right away, we can use this one to get from grams of glucose to milligrams. So let's do that. Let's see if that leads us anywhere. 1 gram of glucose is the same thing as 1,000 milligrams glucose, and that gets rid of grams of glucose. Okay, now we're at milligrams of glucose. And we can get from milligrams of glucose to milliliters of fluid. So 90 milligrams of glucose is what you get from 1 milliliter of fluid. And now we're at milliliters of fluid. Now what we're looking for is minutes. Well, we know that 150 milliliters of fluid takes an hour. So 150 milliliters of fluid takes 1 hour. That cancels the milliliter, and now we're at hours. And to get to minutes, it's going to be very simple. Let me make a little bit more room. Okay, there's 60 minutes in an hour. 60 minutes is 1 hour. And now we're at minutes. Okay, that's a big calculation right here. So you see how we did this? We start with 2 grams of glucose. Well, convert that to milligrams of glucose, using the gram to milligram conversion. Then go from milligram glucose to milliliters of fluid, because in 1 milliliter, that's how much milligrams you got. And then go from milliliters of fluid to hours using the flow rate, and then from hours to minutes. Let's punch it all in the calculator. Okay, all of that. And I get 8.888888. Okay, 8.8888 minutes. Let's see if we can figure out sig figs. You got 2 sig figs here. Exact, 2, exact, 2, exact. So we're going to be limited to 2. It'll be 8.9. 8.9 minutes. Whew, that was a big one. Okay, that's the last one, folks, and not going to do the challenge problems. Okay, that's up to you. If I were you, I would do all of the challenge problems, or maybe pick a couple.